Welcome back, everybody. It's another edition of You Know What. New Guitar Day. It is April the 2nd, 2024, a beautiful early spring day. We actually reached, according to the weather report, 72 degrees. Lovely. So, we have an odd guitar today. This is from a company that, go figure, why would they name it? Before we get to that, though, I want to once again point out Amazon's idiocy. Keep in mind this is a guitar. And it comes in a, well, amazing. They actually put some packing material in here. This is probably the first time, but again, this box is like way overkill. But this guitar is called, at least based on the description on Amazon, it doesn't actually have a name. Feels like it's pretty heavy. But the name of the company is Bullfighter. Now go figure. That has got to be the oddest name, I think, that I've ever heard for a guitar company. But the guitar itself doesn't actually have a model name. But as I was searching around on YouTube, the company put out a tiny little promo video. Well, I'm going to say this guitar weighs 8 pounds, which is surprising. That's just a guess. You know, I have a sideline job as a working at the carnival, guessing people's weight. But the video calls this guitar a K10. So, let's see, it comes with the accoutrements, a strap, a tuner, polishing, some strings, 2 chords. Hey, they're being generous. Comes in a little gig bag, which seems to be, I wouldn't say much padding. I'd say it's pretty minimal. And here's the guitar. We're going to sort of just run through this, through the fret ends are sharp as a razor. So they get a deduction for that. The action looks fairly good. It does have a battery door on it. Oh, it takes AA batteries. Interesting. Okay, well, we've got some fresh ones that we can pop in there. They seem to be all over the place with their batteries. It's pretty looking. It does not look at all like the ad. The ad makes it look much more golden. The neck feels really nice. Feels like a very thin satin finish. Yeah, and there's no crack on the headstock. Like one guy got one and the headstock was just like completely cracked. The truss rod adjustment is up here. Some of them were down here. Again, their advertisement for this guitar is very weird, to say the least. So what I want to do, I don't know if any of that's in camera, I guess it is I want to go plug it in real quick. I'm sort of pressed for time. So I will come back and give a bit of an impression here pretty soon. So welcome back, everybody. It is now a day later. It is April the 3rd, 2024. Beautiful Wednesday. Another little tease of spring outside. And we're just going to jump right in and do sort of the cursory review. This is the Bullfighter. Again, what a name. A name, it's hard to believe that they would even call a guitar the Bullfighter. They don't list this guitar with any kind of model number, but they put a video up and they called this the K10, so I'm guessing that's what it is. I don't know if this is a young company. They definitely have some shortcomings. I'm going to go through the list right now. They have a sister guitar. Again, it doesn't have a model name. These are called the silent guitars, which I have no idea. It would sort of lead you to believe that you could plug headphones into the output jack, but that doesn't work. So they're called the silent guitars. And again, I have no idea what that means, but that's what they call them, so that's what we will respectfully refer to them as. This guitar is a guitar that I would like. There's a lot about it that potentially I like. What's confusing to me, again, back to the sister guitar just has the piezo pickup. It doesn't have the humbucker in the neck position. Only has two knobs, tone, volume, no switch, obviously, because there's nothing to switch between. And they list it as a guitar with built-in effects, but of course that guitar does not have built-in effects. This guitar, on the other hand, they do not list it as having built-in effects. So one would assume by the four-knob configuration that they gave you the opportunity to have a volume and a tone for the humbucker and a volume and a tone for the piezo, but no. You have a volume and a tone that is for both pickups, and then you have built-in effects, which I didn't want and I don't need, and they're cheap and they sound cheap. I could see that they would have an advantage if you were just like a busker, or you were playing a coffee house, and you just had your guitar with you, and they had a PA, and the PA didn't have any effects. You could add a little bit of, I think the choices here are you have some chorus, you have reverb, you have delay, and so you could give yourself a little bit of movement with that. But again, I didn't want that, and it wasn't advertised, and so I got it. Okay, so you live and you learn. As I mentioned yesterday before I rushed off, the frets on this guitar the fret ends were abysmal. You know, people always talk about acclimation and changing humidities, and you know, there's a difference between fret sprout on a well-finished fret and fret sprout on a fret that wasn't well-finished. And the latter of the two, the not well-finished fret end, if there is indeed some fret sprout, I mean, these are jagged ends. These were not finished well. So again, if you've got a little bit of skill and you've got the tools, you can take care of that. To the average person buying a guitar in the $150, $160 range, I don't want to speak in generalities, but quite often they're not going to be the person who has the tools or the knowledge to fix that, so that becomes an issue. The other thing that I found incredibly puzzling is they sent this out with acoustic guitar strings on it, which for the sister guitar that only has a piezo pickup, that would make sense. It has a wound third string, so obviously it was an acoustic guitar set, but when you have a humbucker pickup, acoustic guitar strings do not work well. I won't explain the science to you. I went on YouTube last night, and has something to do with the metals and the magnetic influences, and acoustic strings don't have the same characteristics, which is why they're acoustic guitar strings, and electric guitar strings are electric guitar strings. So I put some new strings on this, and it made a huge difference in the tone on both the piezo and the humbucker. So they're shooting themselves in the foot right there by sending it out with acoustic guitar strings. But then after all of that, this guitar developed this just like really nasty 60 cycle hum that is only in the position number 1, which is just the piezo pickup, and position number 2, which is both pickups. If you go to number 3, the hum completely disappears. So I don't know what that means. Obviously it's a grounding issue. I pulled the back control panel off to just look and see if there was something obvious, that something was touching something, and I gently moved the wires around as it was plugged in to see if it increased or decreased the sound, and it didn't. So at that point I'm just throwing my hands up, and I'm going to send this back. The question is, will I replace it with another one? Again, there's a lot to like about this guitar. The build quality is actually really nice. The action is way too high. I adjusted the truss rod. The neck had way too much back bend, so there was no relief on the neck at all. I had to actually, it's a two-way truss rod, I had to completely loosen it and tighten it up the other way to try and pull it forward a little bit. And again, with a little bit of time, it might do what it's supposed to do. But the neck obviously needs a shim or two because the action, this camera doesn't really give you much close-up, but the action is just really, it's just too high, especially on this side. Just way too high. That's just too high. But otherwise, the fit and the finish is nice. The binding's nice. Once you take care of the ragged fret ends, the neck feels good. Has a nice finish on it. Sort of an open pour, but it's done well. Again, you never know what kind of mystery wood. The tuners were loose. The QC, again, I get it. I get it when you're in this price range. You can't have white glove quality control, but it sort of begs the question, what's the point? If you're going to make guitars that are going out into the world and they're just going to end up being a big disappointment and you end up hurting your brand, what's the point? And then my final comment again is Amazon. I want someone at Amazon to explain to me why they take a box this small and put it into a box this big. Now this time I'll give them credit. They did put a little packing material in there, which is a first for them. Usually they let it just flop around. But keep in mind, I weighed this guitar 6 pounds 8 ounces. If you put it in that box, you might take it up to 7.5 pounds. This thing's shipping weight was almost 14 pounds. Partially due to dimensional weight, because once you get into a bigger box, they take into account not only the physical weight, but how much space it's going to take up. But Amazon is just throwing money out the back door with this idiotic packing policy. It's a waste. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste of space. It's a waste of money. They cry when you ask to get a $5 refund from them, and yet they're throwing money out the door. So anyways, that's my rant. I'm going to call them right now. I called yesterday and asked if I could get a bit of a discount, but now with this buzz out of nowhere, again, it didn't seem to happen yesterday, so I don't know where it came from. So it's just a matter of whether I want to replace it or just send it back and get a refund. Anyways, thanks for joining me. It looked nice on paper, and again, it sounds pretty darn good. When you change the strings on it, you can put a little bit of distortion, a little bit of gain on it, and it pushes nice. Yeah, it's nice. And it's not like anything else. That's sort of the key right now, is I'm trying to buy guitars that are just a bit different. But I have to say, I'm just not digging the effects. That was sort of just a waste. So, anyways, thank you very much. Thank you for joining me. We'll be back with another episode. I have one other guitar that's floating around in Amazon's pre-order. Has been for 3.5 months. It's an IYV guitar. And we'll see if that ever shows up. But till then, spring is coming. Go outside, listen to the birds, enjoy your day, and thank you for joining us.